In case you missed it, here's Dave and Cheryl's favorite moments of the week.
Good news.
Good news?
And now it's time to put some good in your morning.
Hey, good news for you.
We talk about lifelong learning sometimes, and this woman has certainly put that to the test.
Yeah, because most people go to university in their 20s to get their education, but not Miriam Tees. She just celebrated her 100th birthday, and she is still taking classes at McGill University. And here's the thing. I love this. She has an Apple Watch. She still drives. And she's still continuing her education all these years later. Apparently, she never married or had children, in part because she said, back when she was sort of the marrying age, was when the war was going on. And she said a lot of the men her age died in the war, so maybe not as many to go around. But instead, she made a life for herself. Became a secretary, worked as a librarian, and she absolutely loved books. And that's kind of what has kept her curious and has kept her continuing to take courses at McGill University, even though she's 100.
Yeah, attending classes at McGill's Community for Lifelong Learning. So this term she's taking jazz. She's also led some classes, such as music courses. Now, the dean of the continuing studies says that while she's one of about 1,000 senior learners who attend some of these classes at the center, strangely enough, she's not the oldest.
No, there's someone who's 101 who is still taking classes at McGill.
And I love the attitude of the Dean of Continuing Studies. She said, they remind me that at my age of 60-something, I'm still a youngster and I have so much more to learn. And Tess, by the way, says that she's living proof that you're never too old to learn. The only person telling you no is you. Can you imagine how upset and angry you might be if this happened? A 25-year-old woman in New York noticed that her company posted a job listing for the same job she does, a tech writer, and the advertised pay was a lot more than she was making. It was $32,000 to $90,000 more.
That's a huge difference. And to make things worse, she had been trying to get a salary raise for months without any luck. So she applied to the new gig and then tweeted about it. And of course, it took off online. The company actually responded by taking the listing down, and then they reposted it as a completely sort of different, separate job. They claimed it was an internal posting, wasn't meant for anyone else to apply to externally. And then they started talking about possibly laying people off at the company.
So it's unclear what was going on behind the scenes, but the woman says she hasn't been contacted about her application for the new higher paying job, and she actually expects to be fired for drawing attention to this whole fiasco. Sounds like she'll be okay, though. She's using this unexpected attention to promote a book of poetry she put out last year, and now it's selling like wildfire.
Everyone wants to go and support her, and people are also sending her other job postings and listings, for similar jobs that she does now. And she says she's actually pursuing them. Now, this all happened within the past week, though, so she is still working at the same company for now. But it sounds like maybe not for much longer.
Now, if you're wondering, it sounds like some of this was due to what they call salary transparency laws in New York State. They have to put the pay in the job listings.
Oh, my gosh, I wish all jobs did that. Isn't it annoying when you look and you're like, well, I wonder how much the job actually pays?
Well, the thing is that they say $60,000 range is probably intentionally vague as a way to getting around putting a specific number in there.
But it's still $32,000 more than what she was making. 100%. And they were like, dragging their feet on, we can't give you a raise. But then you're going to hire... It sounded like, I don't know, they were going to fire her and then rehire someone new and pay them more?
Sounds like it's time maybe for her to pack things up and find some greener grass. Well, this is an absolutely wild story. Back in 2020, a Family Feud contestant joked that he regretted getting married. Well, just recently, the same guy was arrested for allegedly murdering his wife.
So on the episode, Steve Harvey asked the guy, Tim, the contestant, to name, quote, the biggest mistake you had ever made at your wedding.
What's the biggest mistake you made at your wedding?
Honey, I love you, but said I do. Not my mistake. I love my wife. I'm going to get in trouble for that, aren't I?
Yeah. Well, on February 23rd, 41-year-old Rebecca, the wife, was found shot to death in her home, and now Tim is facing 2 counts of first-degree murder and home invasion.
Now, despite Tim claiming that his marriage was not a mistake, apparently he and Rebecca were in the process of divorcing. Maybe after they appeared on Family Feud, she realized what a terrible mistake she had made.
Well, for the record, Said I Do was number 2. The answer on the board, 20 people had actually said that. So now he had been arrested for allegedly murdering his wife. Well, on an online forum recently, people were asked, what did you learn late that you'll teach your children early? Or in other words, what's something you wish that you'd learned when you were younger? So we posted this on our Facebook page and got some great responses.
Yes, like Alyssa says that not what everyone says matters. And half of those people who can be rude when you're young won't matter when you're older either.
Sam saying, working as a customer service representative for an automotive industry, I wish I had had the opportunity to take an automotive class in high school.
Even if it's just like, I don't know, how to maintain a car. You know, change the oil, refill the windshield washer fluid, change your wipers, that kind of thing, like simple maintenance stuff.
Well, Jean Paul said something similar. He wishes he had taken maybe carpentry or mechanic and maybe taken a trade when he was younger.
Is there something you wish you had learned when you were younger? You can give us a call or a text right now at 519-351-6300 and let us know. So this list online, I love some of the answers on here. Adults are not all wise and smart people. Don't blindly trust those that are in a position of authority.
So true. How about this one? Simply enough, financial literacy. And I think that's a big thing for a lot of us.
And kind of going along with financial literacy, someone else wrote, debt is rarely worth it. You think it's going to be, but in the long run, it's not.
Another really good one. Your mental health is more important than your schoolwork, or I would add, work. Take care of your mental health, and hopefully you're at a workplace that recognizes the importance of that.
Someone else said a thing that they wish they had learned when they were younger, that learning a third language. She said, it's helped me expand my business interests immensely and opened me up to previously inaccessible tourist destinations that, you know, where there's not a ton of English speakers, but if you can speak the language, it's a lot easier to get around and communicate.
Yeah, this person said a third language. I would even add just a second language to be able to be fluent and be able to get by in that language can open up a lot of doors. Someone else saying, never admit you have a skill unless you're prepared for people expecting you to use it. Be careful what you say.
Yes.
Yeah, that can end up biting you. How about this one? You are responsible for your future, no one else. Some great pieces of advice that maybe we'd tell ourselves. Is there something you would tell your younger self or wish that you had learned earlier?
I don't know, maybe just to take risks, take the trips. You know, I've had the opportunity to go on trips and I've said no. And now looking back, it's like I should have just gone. I know it kind of goes back to the person who says debt's really worth it. Like a lot of times I've turned down these opportunities because of financial situations, not having the money saved, and sometimes I wish I had just done it. I would have figured it out.
Yeah, I would say, you know, something I wish I would have learned earlier would be finances and learning to save for sure. But also, again, taking those risks and opportunities, because sometimes I didn't, and then I would regret it later. I was one time at a radio seminar at another place I worked, and it was this beautiful resort on the Ottawa River near Pembroke, outside of Pembroke, between Pembroke and Ottawa. And there was a bunch of the guys that were going out golfing. Well, I'd never golfed before. So I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, at first I said no, and then I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go. I had a blast. I had so much fun, and they were so good with me, too, knowing I was a first-timer, and you know, they had rented clubs, so they let me use some of the clubs that they had. And that's one of the things I wish I'd learned earlier. Just don't worry about what other people are thinking. Go out and have a little bit of fun.
Say yes.
Well, today's the day a lot of people were waiting for, that Zellers is back, kind of, sort of.
Yeah, about a dozen Zellers locations are set to open across Canada today, inside of Hudson Bay locations.
Yeah, big thanks to Murray. He emailed us early this morning with that reminder. I was like, oh, yeah, that is today.
I knew it was coming up.
Yeah, I wasn't sure of the date.
I guess I hadn't worried about it too much because the closest location is White Oaks Mall in London. So not Chatham, not Windsor. You'd have to drive to London for the closest spot to check out the new and improved Zellers. Like, I don't know, it's almost like a pop-up store inside of the Bay.
I mean, it used to be here where Mercado's is now. And, I mean, Zellers, it's always one of those stores you go to, and the cafe was always good. I remember being a kid and going, my mom always liked to grab, food there. You get the blue light specials.
Yeah.
You know, they had those in the store.
I used to go all the time, even like when I moved back, when I first moved back here about 15 years ago, and it was still Zellers before it then became Target and then got shut down. And it was always one of my go-tos because, one, it was on the way home. And it had such a great variety and selection of stuff. I never understood why people kind of look down their noses at it. Now suddenly everyone is like, so nostalgia for it. They want it back.
I think that's part of it. You just hit the nail on the head. Nostalgia. We were in Ottawa a few years ago, and I couldn't believe it. We drove by what was then one of the 2 remaining operating Zellers in all of Canada.
It was almost like a liquidation center.
I wish we had stopped. We didn't have the time. We were just so busy. We were time crunched. And I thought for a second, did we just go through a time warp or time portal? Like, we both stopped because we were at the light, but we were on the inside lane, so it was not like we cut across. The traffic was heavy. But I was like, is that a Zellers? Is that open? There's people there. And we were watching people coming in and out as we were driving by. And I thought, wow, what a flashback. So that's what it is. It's nostalgia, right? For those days gone by to stores that no longer exist, consumers distributing, Byway,
Sears,
Eaton's, Kresge's, stores like this that you just don't have around anymore.
Woolco? Do you remember Woolco?
Mm-hmm. The original Woolco back when I was in Northern Ontario, they had wood floors. Yes, I'm that old. And I was very little, and that's still a memory in my mind, looking down at the floors and thinking, because they weren't perfect, right? Because they were a little warped in spots.
Oh, yeah, because, they get people walking with wet and snowy shoes. Wood floors would not work well with that.
Like the old Kinsman Auditorium, when that was still a thing beside the arena. Their floors were just slightly warped. But yeah, Zellers opening up today as pop-up stores in some select other spots of the Bay.
And now it's time for... 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's random.
Is that a fact?
4 random facts.
Well, many people over the years have talked about the Mona Lisa. There's been songs written about the Mona Lisa. And Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa has her own mailbox at the Louvre because of all the love letters she received.
Oh, people professing their love to her, I guess, to a painting. Hey, Velveeta. Do you know it was invented back in the early 1900s? A cheese company needed to figure out something to do with the broken wheels of Swiss cheese they couldn't sell. So I guess they melted it down with some other stuff into blocks of now very processed cheese.
Jason Statham, great actor, a lot of action movies, was once a world-class diver who competed as part of Britain's national diving team in the 1990 Commonwealth Games.
You can find the videos online of him competing. And it looks like him, but very young version of him.
He's able to pull off those action roles because he was a, world-class athlete.
Yeah, in fantastic shape. And finally, an estimated 93% of TV-owning Americans watched Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon back in 1969. Interesting side note, in 1969, 95% of households owned a TV. And today, that number is 95.9%. So not much has changed.
There's your 4 random facts.
Today's
1, 2,
4.
So random.
random.
Give the public the facts.
4 random facts.
Silverware has been disappearing from office workplaces the last little while. More and more places are reporting.
Forget pens, forget highlighters and Post-its and office supplies. No, the hot thing to steal now is silverware. And if you think about it, it makes sense because they're getting rid of single-use plastics now. So normally, especially here in our office, we used to have a package of forks, spoons, knives, all that kind of stuff. Well, since you can't really get them anymore, now a lot of times it's like bamboo or wood. Instead, we have reusable regular silverware. And I've noticed some of the forks and spoons disappear very quickly.
Yeah, 60% of workers say their companies have made efforts to go green. So sometimes people walk off with it by mistake. Maybe they just don't put it back right away, sitting on their desk. Scarcity is also causing people to covet silverware at work, so they're hoarding it and hanging on to it and putting it in their desk to reuse over and over.
Well, I keep I bring them from home, but I have a knife, a fork, and a spoon in my lunch pail because I can't tell you the number of times I've gone to our kitchen because I have forgotten a spoon at home and didn't bring one, and now suddenly it's like, what am I going to eat my yogurt with? And I'm digging through trying to find something. Really
I always bring my own from home. No offense to anybody I work with here, but I don't want to be eating off the same thing. Although, you go to a restaurant, you're doing that, but then they're also washing it in scalding hot dishwashers, I would think, or hope, at a restaurant, right? So just bring your stuff from home. Someone did a poll and found the average person estimates that their small money-saving hacks save them almost $600 a year.
Yeah, because some of these things you might be like, well, it's only a couple of bucks, but slowly over time it adds up. And I know you posted this on our Facebook page yesterday, and like Jordan said, he wrote one of the things he does is brew his own coffee. He said, that's 16 to maybe 27 cents a cup versus buying it at the store or buying it out at a coffee shop. He says $1.80, but I was say, usually $2 or more.
Yeah, maybe
these
you're getting
days.
a small. His other comment was, stick to a grocery list. Only buy what you need. We're all bad for that. Mm-hmm. If you don't have a list, you go and you buy this, that, and the other thing. You get home, you're like, oh, wait, I already had cereal and all these other things.
You just end up with a whole bunch of ingredients and not anything you can put into a meal. I would say that's one thing I've seen a lot of people recommend is meal plan and then grocery shop. And something to take that even further, make your meal plan based off of looking at the flyers and what's on sale this week, and then only purchase those items.
We're all trying to tighten our belts a wee bit. I mean, we've talked about it over and over. The price of groceries now for the basics are crazy to get now. So Heidi on our Facebook page said, make intentional purchases before buying something. Ask if you really need it or just want it. Do I have something similar already? Could I borrow this item from someone instead?
Yeah, because I remember doing that when I first got my dog Coda, he was starting to chew on things around the house. And so I wanted to get a kennel to put him in. But I mean, some of the bigger kennels, they're well over $100. So I just posted it on Facebook, and a friend was like, oh, yeah, I have a kennel that I don't use anymore. You can borrow it for as long as you want.
Well, it gets it out of their house.
Exactly. And they were like, just, if we need it back, we'll ask for it. And when I'm done with it, I'll give it back to them.
Some of the other things that made this list, putting on a sweater instead of turning up the heat. I think a lot of us were already doing that.
Thanks, Dad. I feel like that's a dad tip.
Using coupons and discount codes where you can. Comparing prices online. It's, shopping as much as you can.
Do you use the Flip app for that? For comparing prices? Mm-hmm. I feel like that's a great way to see where the sales are. And you can also use that for price matching at certain grocery stores, too, when it comes to groceries. But you can also look up other stuff, anything really, that might be on sale.
Packing your lunch instead of buying a lunch every day. Shopping around for utilities like, say, your internet provider. Or
your cell phone. If you're out of your contract, you want to shop around, see if you can get a better deal. Also, maybe a couple times, maybe every other year, call to see if you can get a better deal or shop around when it comes to home or car insurance, too. You might be able to save a couple $100 there.
One of the other things that made the list outside of the top 10, growing your own fruits and vegetables was another one.
Well, I think a lot of people are getting into that or started to during the pandemic as a hobby. And this year, I feel like it's going to be the same way. I mean, you look at the seed library with the Chatham-Kent Public Library. That just launched. So you can go get seeds and plant your own garden. Maybe grow your own vegetables.
James on our Facebook page said, shop when sales are on, buy in bulk. Coupons, he uses the apps also. Candace says she uses Checkout 51 and Cattle, which is cashback apps. So she buys what's on sale, tries to make her own stuff as much as possible. Even things like snacks, right? Instead of buying the processed snack foods maybe for the kids, you're making it yourself.
Make your own granola bars. I know it takes time. You got to have the time, but if you can figure out to do that on the weekend, it can make a huge difference.
One of the other ones that was on this list that I don't know about, cutting your own hair. I don't know if you saw this post the other day from Mackenzie Porter.
She cut bangs?
Well, she was watching Daisy Jones and the Six, which is a new show out on Prime. Really good, by the way, too. Some say loosely based on Fleetwood Mac. Maybe the influence of that and Lindsey Buckingham, Stevie Nicks. She decided in that moment she needed to have bangs and pulled out the scissors and had to do a late night call to a hairdresser friend to fix her hair.
Oh.
So that might be one of those things. Yeah, you think you're saving some money, but
maybe a trim, sure. If you have long hair and you're just doing a trim, like I know for you shave your head, so that probably saves you money on haircuts.
Yeah, put away the bowls, Mom. No bowl cuts.
For guys, go and get the clippers. You can just do that yourself. But for us ladies, it's a little bit harder. And definitely don't be cutting your own bangs.
So it's been about 20 years since TSA limited liquids to 3-ounce containers, had to fit in a clear bag. We've all seen it at the airport. People will go in there and, I didn't know this. Last time we flew, that actually happened. So they were giving someone in front of us, they were giving this woman like little containers that they had there. I mean, thankfully they were good about it because she was trying to bring on full-sized items of liquid, and they're like, no, you can't. You can't be doing that on the plane.
But I don't want to throw out my expensive shampoo.
So she was trying to put it in the little containers while she was standing there. Well, what about peanut butter?
Someone on Twitter says they recently got stopped by TSA because they had peanut butter. And the agent told them, was like, you can't bring it on. And they were said, liquid gels and aerosols, that's what's banned. And so they asked the TSA agent, well, liquid gel or aerosol, what's peanut butter? And it started going viral. So the TSA actually put out their own message on social media, and this is what they had to say. It said, you may not be nuts about it, but TSA considers your PB a liquid. Because a liquid has no definite shape, it takes the shape of its container.
This isn't a new policy, by the way. It just happened to go viral recently. Falls under the same liquid classification as toothpaste, moisturizers, creams, even jams and jellies fall under that same.
So next time you're flying, don't be thinking you can bring in a full jar of peanut butter in your carry-on.
Oh, you know what that made me think of? That line from Friends. Hey, do you remember when your mom would send you to the movie with a jar of peanut butter and a spoon? And it was Joey saying that.
Yes.
And Rachel goes up behind him and pats him on the head. You so pretty. So I had a dentist appointment yesterday, and while I was laying there getting the work done, I was thinking how things have changed over the years with dentistry, because I have been in a lot of dentist chairs over the years. I've had more work than the 401 on my teeth. And as I was laying there, and every once in a while she'd check in, are you doing okay? If anything's wrong, just put up your hand and I'll stop. They've got music playing and whatnot. And I'm thinking, boy, back in the day, you get in the chair, there was no numbing on your gum. They just shove that thing in there, freeze you. The only sound you heard was the hum of the fluorescent lights over top, right?
Or the whizzing of the drill.
We still hear that, but you didn't get all the extras, including the big TV they've got on the roof now.
I was going to say, do you have there's the TV on the ceiling?
So they weren't watching a show per se, but it was more like screensaver things that kept like rotating around, like dolphins, and there was like outer space, which was cool. But then at one point, the screen looked like it was like you're underwater, and it was like water pouring on you. And as someone that doesn't swim, that was a little unnerving for me.
Start panicking at that point?
I didn't like that so much. But then at one point, because we also get up pretty early, like 3 a.m. for, what we do here, I turned and looked at the dentist, and she was wearing like those microscope glasses, with the little lenses that come up further, so she could obviously see a little bit closer.
Oh, yeah.
They, for some reason, appeared to me to be like those novelty googly glasses where the eyes fall out.
Yes.
And I almost started laughing. And then I had to look away, and I looked back, and I started thinking about it again, and I almost started laughing again.
Did you tell her?
No.
You should have said something.
Fun with dentists.
You're like, sorry, I can't take you seriously right now. You look like you're wearing googly glasses.
I just felt like the lenses were going to fall right out and just like be on like little like bungee cords or
just
something.
Just like the springs.
Little springs, yeah, exactly. But how dentistry has changed over the years. So you got there's one chair they have there where I go to that's a massager on it.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
That was the hygienist chair, I think. So I was getting my TV.
I'd be afraid, though, that it would move me around too much. And next thing you know, I got something jabbed in my gum.
It was subtle, not like the ones you used to have at the mall. Do you remember those? Oh, you pay like $1, you can get massaged at the mall.
It was vibrating. The vibrating beds? Magic fingers. Wasn't that what they were called?
Terrible. Those were as bad as those rides that used to be outside of grocery stores back in the day. Do you remember those, the little horse things and stuff?
Are those still around anywhere?
Elephants? I hope not. Those were awful. The thing starts grinding, and it shakes you all over the place. So yeah, dentistry definitely has changed, I would say, for the better over the years.
Oh, well, good news there. And now it's time to put some good in your morning.
Oh, good. Hey, that's good news.
Well, it is good news about somebody stepping up to help this family.
So this older guy in Ohio recently had his knee replaced. And as a result, he's going to be in a wheelchair for a little bit for the recovery. So his daughter wanted to hire someone to build a small ramp up to his door. Sounds like it wasn't very high, maybe just a couple of steps. So a small ramp shouldn't be too bad, except she couldn't find anybody. Everyone was either already booked or they were just too expensive. And then one contractor stepped up. He took the job and did it in a weekend. And he did it for absolutely no money.
Yeah, he says his fiance's been battling cancer, but she's doing well. So he says they've been looking for ways to give back to the community.
I called about 50 contractors, and 3 of them got back with me. And one of which was Jerry with JT Buildings.
There was no cost. It came to the point where it was minimal dollars, and it was a good gesture that I just felt I had to do for her.
One man helping another man in need, and And we need a lot more of that in this world. It's a cold, cruel world, and there's a lot of negativity out there.
You've been listening to Dave and Cheryl's Favorite Moments of the Week.